Okay, so we're just gonna learn basic pinching, okay? So we could do like this peace sign here, and we could do something like this, right? Or we can even use our pointer and our thumb, and we're gonna put our pointer and thumb on one thumb here, on our thumb, and then we're just going to like pinch around like this. Pinch 2 points to 1 point. We're just gonna practice that, okay? And you can do that with both hands, okay? Where you're just pinching here and you're going all around, right? Because when you learn this basic movement here, right, you're gonna learn how to transition between different fingers, all right? And so you don't have to just pinch with the pointer and pinky. You could pinch, very commonly people will use their pointer and their ring, and they'll just pinch like this, okay? Just have one form stuck and pinch with like your other hand and learn how to travel with it and be disciplined within your movement. If you practice this, you're gonna see so much more transition points with what you're doing, because it seems like you wanna blend a lot of like finger roll, flow, whip stuff with the pinch and stuff all in one time. And at this point in your gloving journey, that's too much.
Compete in the drop. The drop is an online gloving competition where we select winners to whoever killed the drop the best. Step 1. Join the Gloving Academy Discord. Step 2. Pick a song from the selection in the drop channel. Step 3. Throw a show to the drop and upload it to social media. Step 4. Post your link in the Share Light Shows channel on the Gloving Academy Discord. 2 winners will be chosen and both will win $50 cash prize. Submissions end September 30th. The Discord link will be provided in the description.
Yo, what is up everybody, and welcome to another episode of Frame by Frame. In today's video, we're going to be looking over Doctor Who's video. And in his video, one of his goals, let's go ahead and read what he put on the Discord. I love giving people light shows and would love to get some feedback on how I'm doing, what I can improve to give people better light shows. And we're doing a level 1, all in the name of getting better, which is basically to go hard on this guy, give him the hardest critique that we can possibly do. And one of the notes he put, since I'm very flow centric, I'm concerned my shows are too hand wavy. So I'd really appreciate the critical feedback. All right, so let's go ahead and look at Doctor Who's video. That intro was right from the bottom. We're getting right into it. I do notice the finger rolls can be a little bit more cleaner. I notice a little bit of uncomfortableness with the movements a little bit. I could tell within like the little bit of the digits and a little bit of hand placements, a little overlapping, a little bit of hiccups here and there. Here's the build-up. Very simple build-up. I'm kind of a fan of it. He could come a little bit more closer to the camera. I feel like we're not gonna see that this show. I love how patient he is here with the build-up. Let's see what he does at the drop. Okay, here we go. Good change of pace. Okay. I can see what he's trying to do. Oh, that was pretty cool. I can see what he's trying to do, but I don't think he has yet the foundations or basics to be able what he wants to do. Very, I would say, young Glover-ish vibes. I wonder how long Doctor Who's been gloving. I feel like the pacing is really good so far. Whenever the songs would change, he basically changes up his moves. There are very brief moments of coherency, but for the most part, a lot of things are kind of hard to understand when he's doing more of those technical things, right? But that's okay. I like how during the build-ups he chooses to do these single finger stacks. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Gummy. Maybe adding a little bit more variety within the space here for the second build-up would have been a little bit better. Oh, I love that. Super OG vibes here. And we're kind of doing the drop the same a little bit, you know, so like we can definitely work on variety. I know he kind of wants to do a little bit more like whips here. Oh, it's when he's within these like little pinching, like morphing type sequences here where it's like a little bit of a wow factor for me, but we gotta learn the foundations of like pinching and stuff like that to be even able to show those coherently. Like, look at that. If he just had the foundations for that, like, wow. That would be so crazy. A little bit of a reposition of the body here. Oh, he does come a little bit closer. He isn't very intentfully going in and out, though. He's kind of like in that middle area for a really long time. A little bit of a repeat, too, with the tech sequence there. A little bit of a hiccup there. Like, look at that. It's I believe it's the ending of the show, and his pacing is really good. Could use a little bit of more presentation, better presentation there. I feel like if we eased out a little bit, like softer and not as moving with the finger rolls there, it probably would have been a little bit better, because it kind of felt like right there at the end that he was doing finger rolls for the sake of doing finger rolls, right? So initially, I feel like, you know, Doctor Who is at the beginning stages, but has gotten into things like maybe a little bit of threading or pinches, and so I feel like it's just a lot of basics and foundations that are missing and perfecting them, but let's go ahead and take a deeper look. Let's take a look at this beginning finger roll as the intro, because I like the start from the bottom coming up. It has an element of surprise to it. I never expect the move to just come from the bottom of the screen and just fully encompass the camera here. But let's just look at the initial intro here, right? We're already at the middle of the finger roll here, and we're at this curvature that isn't quite symmetrical, right? So the biggest thing that I always talk about at the start of a show is to start off symmetrical, because you want to set your guides, and you kind of want to think about the overall composition of the light show in terms of like space, because when you start off like this at the beginning, from the very beginning, it kind of doesn't feel complete, right? But if you were to have just come up straight and then go into like a symmetrical finger roll that's like very symmetrical, right? I think that would give off a better presentation, especially towards the camera, because we're in the middle of the finger roll, and we're kind of, you know what I mean? We go into this form here, and it's kind of like a two-part intro, right? And I don't know. I just feel like the execution was a little bit lacking, mainly because of the transition, right? We go into this finger roll here, and we just get into the transition, which, by the way, the finger roll isn't being completed necessarily here. It kind of just feels like you're in there and you want to get into the form. There isn't really a transition point between the finger roll to this form here, right? We're kind of just going into it. Which is like, it does a lot to your execution. I would have liked to even see maybe to even just start the form here. Like, maybe if you could just start right there, I thought that would have been maybe a little bit more nicer, because like, what's the point of the finger roll in that beginning, right? Even starting like this, I think is really fine. Let's take a look at like this movement here, this initial movement. There's a lot of tertiary movement while we're doing this in the intro. And what tertiary movement is, for those who don't know, it's doing primary and secondary movement, which is basically, primary movements is just simply moving your fingers, and secondary movement is just moving your form. So tertiary is a combination of both, where you're moving your fingers and your form together. And the problem with this part of the intro is that there's a lot of tertiary movement, because I'm not able to really grasp what they're trying to do here. There's a lot of movements, and then so therefore a lot of the clarity gets lost. And you'll find this with a lot of beginner glovers that they'll tend to do a lot of tertiary movement. They'll tend to just keep moving and never stop, and to never really isolate the primary and secondaries. Therefore, it's not very clean, right? There's a loss of coherency. You have to be able to separate both and utilize both at the same time at a good speed. And right here, because we're doing kind of like a wavy move, and this is what they mentioned prior in the Discord submission, is that they tend to they feel like they are a lot flow centric and hand wavy, and I think that's definitely part of the problem, is that you know there's wavy movements and then there's static movements where you can have the full control. But it's like one way to think about it is that you can get into the static then into the flow a lot. If you were to do it statically and then into a flow, then maybe it would be a little bit more coherent. We have to work on just secondary movement. Like, if we're in this form, just secondary movement, not both at the same time, right? Work on isolating just the secondary, and like, you have to get that speed control down too. Work on your movement, not on your moves, especially as a beginner, because you don't want to learn bad habits for years and then have to completely unlearn it. Okay. I do notice when we start the finger roll, right? We're starting them not in a symmetrical form. Like, we're here, down here, and then we're kind of like going like that, right? But like, we have to practice to just doing a flat hand finger roll and then having the finger roll encompass the bottom part of the lens, right? I'm not sure if you're looking at your gloving while you're recording the show, but a common rule, well, a rule that I follow is that when you look at your finger rolls, it doesn't matter if it's a GoPro or a phone or a DSLR, your lens, like the circular part of your lens, that's a guide for your finger rolls to follow. And then so notice how, like, I'm not even looking at the camera, I'm just looking at where my alignment is towards my lens. I'm just circulating around my lens, and that's a good reference to follow. I want to just check these finger rolls real quick. So look at this, okay? So we're in the initial finger roll here, right? And I want you to pay attention to these pinkies, because these pinkies, it's not clean. They have to be together. When you do the finger roll, they have to be touching. And we have to get to this point of symmetry here to get the clean finger roll, okay? And like just like this, right? It's not one and then the other, right? I like to combine my pinkies together so you get that point of symmetry at this point, this U. You might have seen a lot of content creators who do finger rolls tutorials mention this all the time. Shout outs to Cold Paws. But I talk about this all the time too. We have to combine the pinkies to get that point of symmetry there. Okay? A little bit of a hiccup there in the movement. So the fix to this, okay? Drill 100 finger rolls every day at least. Just drill them. It's one of those things where you just have to do it. Okay, you don't want to lag doing this. Finger rolls is one of the best stretches, like one of the best drills to just even do. And the reason why I am suggesting this is because you're doing them, right? So you have to just grind those finger rolls in good form, in good presentation, right? Presentation is a very important thing. Like, it's not about the amount of finger rolls that you're doing. You could just do one nice finger roll, and that supersedes a bunch of finger rolls that are not properly done. Okay, like, I'd rather just have one clean finger roll, nicely well presented, instead of just kind of like a lot of them. Okay. Same thing. So we have this kind of like a curvature while we're doing these finger rolls, and that might help you at the very beginning because it helped me. That's how I used to do finger rolls when I started too. But again, do the flat hand one and keep your discipline like in this position here, and just practice this, okay? The transition between the two pointers, the finger rolls and the two pointers, right? So we go into the finger roll, but like, you gotta learn how to do this overhand finger roll as well. So you're gonna do the finger roll, and then you're gonna kind of curl but you're gonna have your palms facing down now, then open with your pinky, then go into the overhand finger roll. Okay, super basic. I have tutorials on how to do all the basic finger roll moves on the Discord, in the Gloving Academy Discord. You just have to go and find the progressions tab and look under the OG progressions. I teach you circle move, overhand finger roll, continuous finger roll, infinite finger roll, all the finger rolls that you need to learn in order to get to a level where you can do a basic finger show, a full basic finger show properly. Okay, I advise to join the Discord and go ahead and look at that. But for this moment specifically, right, the underhand to overhand finger roll, then when you're here, then maybe you can close into the 2 pointers here that what Dr. Who likes doing, right? Because he kind of just goes into it there. There's a moment where it doesn't look, they know what to want to do, but they kind of lose the clarity here, and we're kind of fixing and kind of getting and feeling our way to the point when we're not actually, we don't actually know how to do the transitions yet, right? Again, same thing here with the finger rolls here. It's like, this is very common. Doing the finger rolls, like trying to do the finger roll from the palms inwards. I'm not sure. I think you could make it work if like you go back to the flat hand, if you start from like that, or if you were to like reverse it. But I could just tell that, you know, we're not quite comfortable with our movements here and our dexterity, so that'll just take a little bit of time. I like the symmetry here at the intro. You know, we're not going into full-blown hard concepts yet, so this is a good thing. The pacing is really good. As long as you're doing symmetrical moves or like mirroring your moves, and it could be like anything. You could do like a peace sign and then like come to the side, right? You could do this and then you kind of do these little hand holding moves here and then you come to the side, right? These are like beginner level intros that I feel like everybody should learn. But like you could even do your thumb, your pointer, your pinky, and then you kind of like come to the side, and, you know, just playing with the space, right? You could do anything basically. Pointer, ring, pinky, just like that, right? Even something like that. Work on your intros. Okay, a lot of floating here, and this is just lack of control with your overall body and hand. Okay, so I want you to just, this is a feeling thing. You have to really discipline yourself, and it's really hard to do when you're a beginner and you don't really know this, right? But like, pay attention to the floating with the hands. Okay, so the hands are right here, and I want them to be stuck in space. Okay, but notice how there's a, he's kind of jittering a little bit like that, kind of moving around. Okay, like compare like my movement where it's just moving my pointer compared to Doctor Who's moving around a little bit, right? So that messes up with the execution. So work on not moving parts that don't need to be moved. I would also say to think about the grid this early. And you know, the faster you learn about the grid, the faster you realize that there's this hidden, I guess, rule, right? Where if you follow it, you're 10 times cleaner. Okay? So learn about grid lines and learn how to isolate your movements. Okay, super minor thing, right? At the right before the drop, there's like a little pop, right? Even advanced glovers don't hit that pop sometimes, but like I would say to hit that pop. Pop, boom, 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 right? Let's look at the initial drop. So like this movement here, right? I can tell. This is a beginner type of movement where like you want to give your audience like this full-blown like experience. But we gotta step over this part and phase of like this right here is like beginner like level like drop whips. We have to start learning whips, okay? And basically it's from finger rolls from your pointer to pinky, just like that, right? Boom, 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 right? Rather than the hand waviness here, but that's okay. We've all been there, right? And so we gotta learn the foundations of finger rolls and whips. And I also have a whip tutorial on that as well on the Discord. Yeah, there's not a lot of coherent forms here because it just seems like one big giant blob, right? It's like if you were to had like really work on foundations and learn like pinches, and don't get me wrong, those are very advanced at this point of gloving, but like we have to learn like the simple pinches, like just from point to point here. Instead of trying to do that with all these crazy forms, especially when you're doing like whips and stuff and you're blending it all together, right? Like there's all these forms, and don't get me wrong, there are moments where it does look good, but we need to learn the level 1 concepts of what you're doing before we're into like level 5. Because you're doing very advanced stuff that you need to know how to dumb it down and learn the base and core foundation of that concept. So you learn how to build on it, so you make it more presentable. Okay, so we're just gonna learn basic pinching, okay? So we could do like this peace sign here, and we could do something like this, right? Or we can even use our pointer and our thumb. And we're gonna put our pointer and thumb on one thumb here, on our thumb. And then we're just going to like pinch around like this. Pinch 2 points to 1 point. We're just gonna practice that, okay? And you can do that with both hands, okay? Where you're just pinching here and you're going all around, right? Because when you learn this basic movement here, right, you're gonna learn how to transition between different fingers, all right? And so you don't have to just pinch with the pointer and pinky. You could pinch. Very commonly, people will use their pointer and their ring, and they'll just pinch like this, okay? Just have one form stuck and pinch with like your other hand and learn how to travel with it and be disciplined within your movement. If you practice this, you're gonna see so much more transition points with what you're doing, because it seems like you wanna blend a lot of like finger roll, flow, whip stuff with the pinch stuff all in one time. And at this point in your gloving journey, that's too much. You have to just learn, again, the basic fundamental concepts of what you're doing, and then combine them later on, because you haven't learned the rules for them yet, right? And so practice the finger roll foundations, practice the pinching foundations, then blend them together. It's a lot of hand waviness, and you know, we gotta learn all the foundations. I'm not gonna lie. We have to learn finger tutting foundations, digit foundations, and so I think this is very exciting. I feel like you have to pick maybe one or two. Pick one or two, and then really learn about them. A little bit of liquid there. So we're just blending moves together, and we don't know what to do with them. We're kind of just meshing together all these different concepts. Because I saw liquid, I saw digits, I saw threading, I saw everything. This Doctor Who loves everything, and I think that's great, because in this moment of gloving, this is what I talk about in terms of the gloving skill tree. You can choose where they want to go. There's no boundaries where they want to go, but I would say pick a point where you want to start. You can't start at all these different places though and expect to have a coherent show if you're taking out all this thing, right? Like, learn to be an intermediate in one concept, then an intermediate in the other, then an intermediate in the other. Take it step by step. Yeah, I would normally go frame by frame on these like sequences, but I just can already tell we have to learn foundations on the grid and pinches and finger rolls, right? It's just foundational work. And then we can talk about grid placement later on. One thing that you could also do with these pointer stacks, right? Because we're doing it both at once with tertiary movement. We could just have one finger be the like lead for one. So you could do something like boom, right? And then boom, right? So like play with like the illusion rather than moving both hands at one time. You could like hit that down, right? Then hit that down, right? Hit it to the side, hit it to the side. Notice how the control looks a lot more pleasing rather than moving both hands at one time. But even when you move your hands at one time, you have to pay attention to your arms so that they're not floating all the time. If you're gonna do tertiary movement, you can even do stuff like this where you like move both, then move. Move both, then move, right? So a little bit more methodology behind the moves, the presentation, taking care of your moves, right? And so this is a very important part of the gloving journey, is taking care of your moves and making them well presented, doing less moves and having them be clean is better than having a bunch of moves that are not perfected. Control there actually was not that bad though. But how can you build off of it, right? And you could build off of it by utilizing your space and having more of that illusion, right? You could even go in and diagonal there as well, or do something like that, right? Just some suggestions. It does give me ideas though, because it's been a while since I've done like simple pointer moves. And then so now my brain is firing off thinking of how can I build on just the pointer on both hands, right? And like there's so much that you can do with this. Like you could literally stack in behind and then utilize depth, because I love to do this as well, or like stack in behind and utilize depth, right? Or like we could do that thing that I was doing earlier, right? We could like turn our hands so then like one's at the z-axis and one's in the y-axis, but we could also do in the x-axis, right? There's actually so much that you could do with just your pointer, right? You could play so much more with your pointer, right? Boom, 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 right? So I guess just learning how to play with your moves and the things that you're presenting in order to have more variety, right? Don't be afraid to play during a light show. One of the biggest mistakes that I guess, maybe I wouldn't necessarily call it a mistake, but one of the biggest things that I feel like hindered my growth while starting gloving was that I always felt like every show needed to be this performance, which is funny, right? Considering that I try to treat all my light shows like performances, but that has hindered my growth because I forgot that you could just lab in front of the audience, right? It doesn't need to be perfect. I think that there is a lot of value that you could have by just labbing in front of your audience, because it teaches you how to really freestyle and build in high pressure situation, because I know a lot of glovers, they get nervous while throwing shows, but like live in that like labbing mind state sometimes when you're giving someone a light show. Of course, you know, you want to impress the audience and express yourselves like perfectly to the music, but like there's something about labbing in front of the audience that will really help you build on the spot. It'll help just your freestyle in general. Yeah, there's just a lot of like of these, like just a lot of these, and there isn't really much like to build off of. So it's like, imagine if you could just start getting into whips and there's all these varieties and doing the finger rolls and learning the box move, right? And like learning how to do continuous finger rolls besides doing this, because this gets old quick, right? And in the goal, it's just about giving better light shows, right? And to kind of like bring that around a little bit, the audience, or rather to give a good light show, means you always want to keep the audience guessing. You don't want to be boring by doing the same old things, because they get used to it, right? As humans, we are capable of finding patterns. So like once we see the same patterns over and over and over, it gets boring, right? And then so you change that. You change different patterns by doing different combinations or different variations, right? Instead of just doing this, it's like another variation of this is literally just doing whips, right? And with whips, there's so much variations that you can do with whips, right? And there's always this change. So that's gonna add to the element of entertaining the audience, right? Just learning more varieties with your whips. I can't wait though till these pinches are matured. Don't throw this away. Whatever you got going on here, it may not be clean, but don't throw it away. I want you to keep this and think about when you do learn more of pinching concepts, how can you make this more foundational, right? How can you build more on this? And here's a tip that I would consider when you're in this moment in gloving. If you could build a protocol in your brain where you are going into these, like whatever you're doing here, these pinches, right? How about when you go into them, I'm gonna just do random pinches. How about when we go into them, we stay in the form and we stop so the audience has a moment to appreciate the form. Then we move. We use secondary movement, right, to utilize grid space. Then we can go a little bit more, right? Then we stop. And it doesn't have to be perfect. The lines can be sporadic. It's just a method to really help you digest what you're actually doing. Because you might be going into this and it's too much. It's too much too fast and there's no coherency. So get into a form, stop, move. Get into a form, stop, move. And you could just go towards the audience and stop, right? Emphasis on the moves. Emphasizing by going closer to the audience, then back. Emphasis by going closer to the audience, then back. Then do your move, stop. Emphasis by going closer, then back. This is going to really help you understand what you're doing with your hands and you're going to be able to build on it. Plus, you have a lot of intricate forms. Like, I'm just going to pick a random moment. Like, look at this. This form could be so beautiful. Just this form. I like this form because it's very interesting, right? Like, look at this. If you would have just stayed here, I'm going to use, like, maybe green so we could see it. But there's a nice horizontal line there. Nice horizontal line there. Nice vertical line here. Then you have, like, little diagonal lines. Like, I'm not going to be, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, like, kind of do something, maybe something like this, right? But if you were to, like, stay in this form, yeah, let's try that. And then just stop, then kind of work harmoniously with your lines, like that maybe, right? That is already a move. That's a very unique move that only you do, right? Let's see what the trend, I'm gonna go ahead and clear this now. Let's see what the transition point is from here. So you're like doing like so many forms at once here. It's kind of all one giant blob, right? And you're transitioning from form to form, but I like these forms sometimes. Like if you had stay here, like even that to me is very interesting. It's abstract but interesting because the moment that you utilize movement, you could do so much with this. Maybe it's gonna be cause and effect, right? Because you have a vertical line there, you have a nice diagonal line here. Normally, I would say that a lot of the lines are sporadic, but look at that. Like you have like a nice little like flat line on the bottom and then sporadic lines on top. It's just context. It's just what do you do? I don't even know what you're doing here, to be honest. But what can you do with something like that, right? Or something like that. It's like, okay, like pause, then have them breathe. You could stay in this form, flip it, and like you find a new angle, a new position to build off of if you're to just flip it. Like a lot of glovers, they're in and out of their forms way too often, and they don't get to work with the forms that they're presenting. So this is a big thing for you, doctor. You're gonna have to stop in your form and build on the form. Right? Be a little bit more patient. The angle of which that the palms or like the backhand is facing is moving too much. Okay? What I mean by that, I want you to just pay attention to where the palms are facing. You see how this top hand, the palm's facing down, and this bottom hand, the palm's facing up, right? It's moving too much. Now the palms are facing the opposite direction, but in a horizontal line, right? And there's too much of this. It's too much this. You know what I'm saying? If you really break down the movement, it's too much moving like this. One way to really fix this and to just go up in level is if you're doing your pinches, staying where your palms are facing. So for example, my palms is facing this way, right? And this palm is gonna be facing like down. This palm's facing this way, palm's facing down. if I were to just practice just moving my fingers while doing like pinches in this orientation like that, then doing like threading or whatever he's doing here, but staying in that minimal orientation change as possible, that's gonna help the discipline and that's gonna help him be cleaner. Okay, practice that, and it doesn't even need to be just pinches. I would say even if it is a finger tutter or like someone who does dials, this type of practice is gonna help you tremendously. Okay, because it forces you to do combinations in the same orientation rather than trying to compensate your movement by changing the sides of your hands. This is kind of advanced, but I want you to think about that when you're doing your connections. You see how the palms are moving in all sorts of directions? Minimize that and learn how to just combo with just one direction or one orientation. Here we are again at the inch, like a little bit of a hiccup there, right? So it's just getting used to the movement. Look at this hiccup, right? It's kind of a little bit of a misalignment there. So it's just getting that perfect movement now, right? Just being really patient with it and just being precise with your movement. Like, I want you, like, if you're gonna do stuff like that, like, you know, you could just move your body as well in one motion, because doing it separately like that, actually, well, I guess it really doesn't matter. It's just introducing a little bit of speed control in your practice is gonna help you a lot, because you learn, like, you kind of like, how do I say this? You kind of stretch your body and you get used to it, right? You're like oiling the machine when you utilize speed. You're like learning what you can and cannot get away with. Like this minor thing here, like how can we build on this sequence, right? So we go middle, right? So like middle, ring, then pinky. And I don't know if Doctor Who has a problem with the pinky there, but like even if you were to just close like that, I found that like if you want to do something like that, right, and you cannot do that pinky release without your ring, then go into a knuckle touch and then open each individual finger like that, then get into the thread, because having that like tension down, it kind of helps with the pinky there. My pinkies are kind of like, they have that, they're pushing against each other, so I'm able to do it, because I can't do that individually without the knuckles touching, right? So just a little fix for something, for a small problem like that. And this is one of those moments in the outro where the ending is so long that in your brain as a glover, you're like, okay, I want to end here, but the song's still going. Then you just so happen to just go into like another movement that kind of breaks the outro because you feel like you have to do something. You could just end it. You could just be in that symmetrical motion and not do anything and just move the form and then just end it. And I have done the same thing a lot myself, but it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, as an outro, is there really more value to doing more? Because watch this, right? We're at the outro and we're back to doing the finger rolls, and there's not really anything happening in the song, but we feel like we might want to be doing more, and then just end, right? So it's just like, I guess work on an outro or just come back to Symmetry, utilize your depth, then come out, and that's it, right? I've ended doing tech before, and I was like, oh man, that just kind of like broke the whole piece. It stained the whole piece. I'm like, oh, that did not feel good. But just a suggestion to just end symmetrical. At this point, you know, a lot of glovers, they'll do like a lot of finger rolls and then just kind of end to the side. But like you could also just end top and down. And so I understand where Doctor Who is in their journey of gloving. So this is what I would suggest at this part of your journey. I would say number one, pick one or two concepts and learn the foundations of them. I would at this point recommend finger roll foundations and pinching foundations. And then I would say for the second thing, learn about the grid. So learn foundations of the grid, because there's a lot of tertiary movement happening. I also have a video called Puppet Fundamentals. I'll probably link that at the end of the video as a thumbnail on YouTube or something. But I really teach you about primary, secondary, and tertiary movement. Those are what I consider foundations of gloving just in general. So I noticed that there are a lot of unwanted movements or movements that hinder the cleanliness. So that video is going to really help out with a lot of the floating and a lot of the hiccups in your light shows. And I would say get closer to the camera, but be intentful with how you get closer to the camera, because we were in this middle range, and so coming in and out like that is extremely important with having the show be more interactive with the viewer. And I would say lastly, do less moves that are more clean, because you tend to do a lot of moves that aren't clean. I want to see less moves that are clean, so it gives off a more aesthetically pleasing show. And we have to learn how to dumb it down before we can go crazy. But anyhow, I thought that you did a great job for wherever you are in gloving. I said that there are brief moments where I go, wow. So there's a wow factor involved, but we just have to clean it up a little bit. But other than that, guys, I hope this video helps you all. If you're looking for whites, battery skins, or any other gloving accessories, head on over to glow-leds.com and don't forget to use my code AlohaNation for 10% off. Keep grinding and keep on improving, and stick around for more Gloving Academy content. Peace.
Big shout outs to all current Gloving Academy Patreon subscribers. Here they are. Thank you so much for all the support. Seriously, guys, the Patrons got weekly educational and never before seen content. So if you want to take your gloving to the next level and learn from me, I highly recommend joining the Gloving Academy Patreon.